The Buschy and Bobo Show, a healthy scratch podcast. Here's your hosts, Kyle Busch and Brian Rager.
Welcome back. It's Buschy flying solo today. Bobo is away in Las Vegas. Got a little trip there for the kid. He deserves it. So hopefully Bobo's having a fun time there. Chatted with him and said, you know what? Kind of bored. Gonna throw a pod together. Obviously, it's more fun when we do it together, but the playoffs are in full swing. There's a lot of stuff that I wanted to get off my chest, kind of scratch the itch. Obviously, love doing the podcasts. But with a lot of these things, I've got a beer because this might be a long one. Hopefully not too many negative things. First and foremost, obviously, the millionth time, I'm a big Red Wings fan. I don't live and die with the team like I used to. My brother likes to say that I do. I mean, if they're winning, great. If not, big deal. We actually went to a Wings game a few weeks ago when they played the Penguins. They ended up losing 5-1. And every time that the Red Wings would get scored on, him and my dad, who came with us, they'd look at me like, oh, you know, like he's going to be mad. I'm like, I don't care. Like at this point, if they lose, better draft lottery odds, right? So it's not like 2008 anymore, man. I'd go to bed upset if they lost, 2009 when they lost the Stanley Cup final. That's why I hate Sidney Crosby so much, or I did. Obviously now it's been a long time. It was really funny during that game. I knew there was going to be a Crosby sucks chant, and I wanted to partake just because I've never done that before. It's the first time I've seen the Wings and the Penguins play live, and I'm not even shitting anybody. Right when that chant started, Crosby scored, which I thought was so funny. Oh, geez. I was saying to my brother, like, that is so uncanny that would happen. Right when they start to say it, he buries one, because it's just ironic. He doesn't suck. It's just Wings fans, I guess we have really long memory with, what he did to us in the final in 2009 and kind of how 2008, as well, when he was a whiny little bitch. And that's just how it was. Now he's not. He's like 36 years old. He's won 3 Stanley Cups, correct? A couple gold medals. He's done everything, right? So leave him be. Now, what was funny is that the Penguins did miss the playoffs. I laughed at that because the 18-year-old Kyle said, yep, that's kind of funny to me. I'll take a chuckle at it. And just the way that they lost with the Blackhawks and the Blue Jackets, you played the 2 worst teams. You controlled your own destiny and still blew it. The Red Wings obviously did not make the playoffs. Listening to Derek Lalonde and Steve Yzerman's press conferences, they still make it feel like this was a season that they expected. This is where they were going to be. They flirted with the playoffs a little bit, that wild card spot. Would it would have been nice? Absolutely. But it's something that it's part of the process. And I know fans hate hearing that. But when you've seen, in my lifetime, I've seen 4 Stanley Cups. Granted, the first 2, I was pretty young, 7, 8 years old. But I remember 2002, I remember 2008. I've seen them win. And I said it when my Philadelphia Eagles, you don't believe me, boom, when they lost the Super Bowl. I was like, you know what? I'm cool with it. I've seen them win before. The way that they won with Nick Foles as a backup coming in, Big Dick Nick beating Tom Brady and the Patriots and Bill Belichick as the underdog. And there's no way they're going to top that. And I'm okay with it now. We're like, if they're not winning, it is what it is. I don't expect my teams to win ever now, just because the percentage chance that your team's going to win is so slim to none. Ask Leafs fans. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But the Red Wings, they ended, I think, the 9th worst lot or 9th best lottery odds, 8th or 9th, something like that. They'll pick 10th because, let's be honest, they're not going to win the lottery. Although, in all the years that there has been a draft lottery and that the Red Wings have been in the draft lottery, they have went down a total of 8 spots in all the draft lotteries that they've been in. They've dropped 8 spots total. Wouldn't it be great and absolute karma if they won the draft lottery and got all 8 spots back and they got to pick Connor Bedard? Let us dream for a little bit. That would be awesome. I mean, hey, second pick as well. You get a guy like Adam Fantilli or Matvei Michkov or Leo Carlson. You're getting someone awesome. It feels to me a little bit like the McDavid and Eichel draft, where if McDavid wasn't in that draft, Eichel's going 1 no matter what. But just because there's a phenom, he's the one that's going 1. But the other ones are going to be maybe overlooked where they're going to be superstar players as well. So getting a crack at one of those would be great. Percentage chance is pretty low for the Wings to move up. Can always dream. But looking at the season as a whole, defensively, they were better. And that was something that I definitely wanted to see. Remember some of the podcasts we did last year, just absolutely miserable, losing 10-2 and 9-1. And that didn't really happen that much this year. The only one that I can recall was a little bit earlier in the season. They lost to Buffalo like 8-3, something like that. And it was the only time where I went, wow, they just got absolutely shit blasted. For the most part, they were competitive. And obviously, every team is going to have nights where they're not competitive. It's just not their night. It doesn't go that way. But it happened all too often last year. And this year, you can see the stamp that Derek Lalonde has kind of put on this team in terms of defense and the way that they play. I do like how he talks after his at his press conferences. He definitely explains things, goes into detail, and doesn't give you a non-answer. Blashill was really, really good at not answering the question. Lalonde is one that it seems more intellectual in terms of telling the fans, like, here's what our expectations are. This is where we thought we would be. Like, we're not going to kid ourselves and say that, yeah, we're a playoff team. Because he even said, like, if we got in, like, we know we're not going to be able to compete with the Bostons of the world and, Toronto and Tampa. Like, it's in a series like that, they're probably going to lose. And he said that out loud. And I was like, wow, okay. I haven't seen this type of transparency in a long time with this franchise. So it's nice to see that. And especially even like with Yzerman, he doesn't say a whole lot, but in terms of like his plan, it's like, yeah, we're going to be patient. Like, I know a lot of fans, and even myself included, like, the expectation for me next year is to get into the wild card spot, right? But Yzerman has gone on record saying, I'm not going to do anything, that's not going to help us in the future either. Like, I'm not going to do something that's going to mortgage that to get in now. And I get it. I agree with that. So going full circle back to when I said, my team is not winning, it doesn't bother me as much. What I'm kind of getting at is, like, take your time, do it properly, so that when you do get in, you're constantly getting in, like they used to when they had Yzerman, Lidstrom, Shanahan, Fedorov, Datsuk, Zetterberg, all these guys, and went on that 25-year run. Obviously, that the last years of them, they weren't really that competitive in the playoffs, and that was the problem. But for most of it, they were looking for a cup. Like, they were competitive. They went through some upsets here and there, but that's why you play the games in the playoffs. So you never know who's going to win. And we're going to break down a little bit of the playoffs today as well. But what I wanted to do first was just kind of share, like, my thoughts on the Red Wings going into the offseason, what I think might happen, like who's going to be here, who's not going to be here. And some of it is interesting because there's I'm going to pull this up right now. I have kind of here's my Excel sheet, my little depth chart here. Let's pull that up. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. So there are some guys, in my opinion, that are like cemented into their spot. Obviously, a guy like Larkin is going to be your number one center. I think that he has proven that he's a point a game player. Is he a McDavid? No, nobody is. Is he, going to be a guy that's going to bury 40 goals? Maybe with the right players. I mean, if you really look at who he's been playing with his whole career, there hasn't been much, and he's been producing. He's been the one that's driving those lines. And I think if he does have some help in terms of a setup guy or somebody that he can really play with, I don't know if he's really had anybody like that yet. I mean, he's had good players that he's been with, but nothing to the quality that I would expect of a first line. Like Lucas Raymond, we say sophomore slump. He had a similar point per game total than he did last year. Obviously, he had like 6 less goals. I think he only scored 17 this year. He had 23 as a rookie. But as a forward, like, it takes time because now they're keying on you, and now you're going to have to create for yourself. When we always talked about Zadina, he's not creating for himself. He's not driving the play. Raymond's going to have to learn how to do that. What I want to see from him next year is shoot the damn puck. Like, this kid has a fucking rocket of a shot. Awesome release. And he doesn't shoot enough. There's so many times where he would pass off And it reminds me of me because that's all I do. I don't shoot, I pass every time. Even when there's a spot where it's like, dude, shoot the puck. So you can see on that top line left wing spot, I have a blank spot. And the reason being is because in my opinion, they need to go out and get a top line winger. They have to, I think they have to. Because if we're looking internally, especially on that left side, I mean, Robbie Fabry is going to be, I think he'll be healthy going into the year. He was talking at the end of the season about how, uh, this is the first time where he's actually like with a knee injury. He's had 3 ACL surgeries. I got feel for the guy, but he's actually going into the offseason feeling healthy. Like he almost came back at the end of the year. He could have, I guess he said, but he wanted to go into the offseason feeling healthy and rehabbing the whole summer and just feeling awesome, during the offseason, getting into the regular season. So I think he is a top 6 guy. I like how he plays with an edge. I think they missed that with obviously the guy in the center there, Rasmussen as well. Both of them being out, I think they lost some of their teeth, I guess, because when Fabry came back, he was throwing the body around. He's aggressive. He's a good skater. He scores goals too. Like it's one of those things where I like how he does play, and I would personally put him in the top 6. I wouldn't put him top line per se, but if we put him with Larkin and Fabry, move them up one, I think he'd be fine. But I want somebody that is a bona fide scorer, and we'll get to that. Who maybe they could be going after here. Michael Rasmussen. It might be shocking to people that I haven't slotted on the second line. I really liked what he did this year before he got hurt, and I'm somebody that has been a little, I don't want to say harsh about Michael Rasmussen, but this is why it takes some time for these players to develop. And Ras was like a 9th overall pick back in like 2017. It's like 6 years ago. And he's finally coming into his own. I was looking for some nastiness. I was looking for him to use his size. And he did that this year, and he played really well. I really liked the way that he played. And they obviously lost some size, obviously, when he went down with that injury. And I think he was just blocking a shot. I think he like broke his ankle or something. So he'll be back when the season starts. I want to give him top 6 minutes. I want to put him on the power play too. I know I was talking about Alex Chase on and be like, what the hell are they doing there? He performed beautifully on that power play. Is it something where we bring him back and throw him in there? Like, I'm not sure. I think you can kind of get guys like Rasmussen or even like Soderblom, the size that you need to be the net front guy. It's just Chason was good at like chasing pucks down, knowing where to go, when to flare out, when to get in front of the net. It's one of those things where he's a veteran, so he understands how to do that. Need to teach Rasmussen and a guy like Soderblom, in my opinion, to do that well so that they can be on the first, second power play units and be the big body in front of the net. David Perron, I mean, I had an up and down season with him. Like, statistically, had a great season. And I have a tweet, if anyone wants to go and look at my tweets, where there was a game where he made an egregious turnover, and I tweeted, shoot Perron into space. And he went on in that game to score a hat trick, like right after I tweeted it. And I went, you know what? Who's next? Because I'll say somebody else. I feel like I'm the ultimate jinx in terms of like saying someone isn't playing well, then automatically they'll score. So if that ever happens, you see me bitching about someone, put some money down on the score. It's going to happen. But Perron had a good year. I mean, at the beginning, I feel like he had more legs. I was kind of wondering if he was dealing with an injury towards the end of the year, but statistically did well. Older guy, good guy to have in the room for sure. A on the jersey. I do like him. He will be in the top 6 next season. The third line, Jonathan Berggren had a great rookie year, and he had like 4th line minutes for most of the year, and still, I think he potted like 15 goals, which is like really, really good. And I like the kid's vision. And I think it's just, he's a smart hockey player. And this is going to sound like super like, oh, okay. But there are some qualities of him that are like Datsukian, where I obviously not on that level. I'm just saying there's some plays that he would make where I was like, oh, that was slick. That was kind of like Datsuki used to do. Like, you just hold it for an extra second to open up a lane, make the pass. Like, I think Berggren is a smart hockey player for his age, and he's going to slot in that top 9 for sure. Obviously with, getting some injuries here and there, power play time, who knows? You got to fight for that. Andrew Kopp is Andrew Kopp's a player that just some of the signings that they made in the offseason, I really, looking back, I went and looked at the podcast we did for free agency. I was super okay with Andrew Kopp. I went, you know what? He's going to be perfect second line guy. And it just wasn't what I thought he was. I thought he had a lot more offensive capabilities. He has none. And he gets goals and assists, but he doesn't create that much. And I don't think he's that much of a threat if he went one-on-one with a defenseman. Like, he's not going to undress somebody, do some crazy move and score. He's not going to burn somebody with his speed. So for Kopp, I think would be a perfect third line center at this point. I thought he would be a second, but I think he's more of a third now. It's just the contract that bothers me. But at the same time, only 3 more years. Hopefully, it's something where they kept putting him out there a ton, and even on the penalty kill and stuff like that. So I want to see a little bit more from him going forward for sure. I mean, he's going to get second line minutes. This is my lines. This is what I would do. This isn't what's going to happen. Rasmussen and Kopp will probably be flip-flopped. Dominic Kubalik, I mean, he was on fire for a lot of the year. He got healthy scratched for a game. The whole Vrana situation, and they were kind of going through him, Kubalik, and Kubalik, Zadina, Vrana, just like once every game, one of them be scratched. I guess it's a good problem to have, but Kubalik is a guy that can slot in on the top 6, second guy. What you're gonna see here, they have so many second line talent. There's not a lot of first line talent. You can argue that Lucas Raymond is a second line talent right now. Does he potentially be a first guy? Yeah, absolutely. But Kubalik is a guy that could be on the second line, but he could be your top 9. He could be on your 4th line, really. That's where he was going to start last year when he got signed. But he, caught fire out of the gate with obviously a few injuries there too. And then, Vrana going out. So he had an opportunity and he scored a lot. Pius Suter, I really want the Red Wings to bring him back. I thought he was super effective on the penalty kill, a couple shorthanded goals, has a little bit of offensive capability. He was really, last season was like a second line center for them when they brought him in. I would love to bring him back, even around the same cap hit. Like, I don't care. I'll pay him $3 million for a year or two just to kind of bridge the gap. I think he's a really nice player, a nice compliment that you can put on your bottom line. But that can also flex into different spots. He's almost like a jackknife where you can kind of put him wherever. He's a centerman. He can play wing, penalty kill, throw him on a power play if you really, really needed him to. Joe Veleno and Philip Zadina were in the same draft class as Berggren. But I think Berggren's actually leapfrogged both of them, which is interesting. I think Veleno has leapfrogged Zadina, which is interesting because the draft order was completely opposite. Veleno has speed to burn, which is nice, especially for like a 4th line guy. Do I think I want him to get some reps on a power play? Yeah, but I'm saying this about everybody. But I wanted to see that he had a few games at the end of the year. He got some time on the power play. He was the one that was carrying the puck up the ice, and kid's got some hands, and it's just you need some reps at doing that. And I think he could be effective, but it's just you have to take somebody's job, and I don't know whose job he would really take. So right now, slot him in on the 4th line, but it's like there's a dogfight because now you're seeing some of the guys that I'm going to mention now. This is where Veleno, if Suter doesn't get re-signed, it's because of some of these guys at the bottom. So like Zadina, he got hurt like all year. He had like 1 goal or 2 goals. The thing is he's signed for another few years at like 1.5 mil or something really, really low. And he's not going anywhere. So everyone thinking, we should trade him. Like, he's not worth anything right now. But he's cheap. So he's not really bogging down any cap room. It's a roster spot. So he's going to have to earn it again. Right. And because I don't think he's really like a regular on the team. I don't think his spot is in cement because guys like Elmer Soderblom, who started the season in Detroit, played really, really well and played basically 2/3 of the season in Grand Rapids. He's very, very effective in what he does. Marco Kasper, 8th overall pick. Now I know he's a centerman, but still, Veleno can flex to the wing, so can Suter, so can Kopp. Like, everyone can move around. So Marco Kasper, does he get a shot? He played 1 game with the Wings with a broken kneecap, so can't question the kid's toughness. And then Carter Mazer, who There's definitely some buzz about him playing for Denver, and then he played in Grand Rapids for like 4 or 5 games. I think he got like point per game. And he's supposedly in the mold of a Tyler Bertuzzi, kind of a pest, but can score. And like, hey, I'll take a lot of those guys for sure, because that's what you need at the playoffs. So up front, and I'm probably missing a few guys that could get in there, but that spot in the top uh, forward position there. My theory is that they're probably gonna use one of those first rounders they got, the Hronik trade, and they have one next year as well, like extra picks. The UFA class isn't that solid right now. I mean, if you want to try to maybe go out and get like Tarasenko for a year or two, I'm cool with that. But also, he's on the back nine of his career. You're not going to give him a 6, 7 year deal, and that's probably what he's going to be looking for. I mean, maybe less. I don't even know how old Tarasenko is. I thought he'd maybe be like 31, 32. He's 31. Okay, so he could ask for like a 6, 7 year deal. I'm not giving that to him. If it's like, hey, 1 or 2, I would, um, but like guys that obviously aren't coming back up front would be Adam Ernie. I mean, get him out of here. I mean, Austin Czarnik, Matt Luff, Alex Chason. I mean, Czarnik's going to be in the minors. Luff, he's RFA, so he'll probably go back to the minors, and then Chason's UFA, so I'll have to make a decision there. So, I mean, not a ton of changeover like most of their guys, other than Pius Suter, which again, I think I would like to bring him back. Veleno's RFA, he'll get a little bit of a bump. Uh, it's going to be pretty much similar. I mean, I think you need a top line guy, and I don't know who that guy is going to be. There's been some talk about Alex DeBrincat maybe wanting out of Ottawa. Problem is, you're going to have to give up assets to get him, and then you're going to have to pay him big time, right? You're going to have to pay him $9 million. Like, are you okay doing that? Is he really the guy you want, next to Larkin and Raymond? Or do you want someone else? Because he didn't really have that good of a year in Ottawa. I think he only scored like 27 goals, but for a bona fide scorer, is that good enough to be on your top line? Or can you just put Robbie Fabry there? Like, is it the same thing? Uh, who knows who else is going to become available once some of these playoff teams start getting knocked out of the playoffs? You start thinking about the cap situations. Who would that be? It would take a lot more for me to like look at all these teams and go, who's going to be in a cap crunch? Who might be available? Who could we maybe go and get, make a trade to get somebody that maybe might be better than the free agent crop that's coming out, which again, it's not that good. Unless you think James Van Riemsdyk is awesome, because I don't. On defense, same idea. I think there's one spot up for grabs. You're going to have Wallman and Sider as a pair. They were great this year. I think Edvinsson is going to make the team next year for sure. Him being slotted in with Sherratt, I don't like, because anybody Sherratt plays with statistically doesn't play well. It's kind of shocking actually to see whoever he plays with, just like their advanced stats just aren't great. Oli Mata got re-signed. I liked how he played last year. Just like a solid guy. You can throw him on the bottom pair. You can move up, down. It's nice to have these guys that can kind of go anywhere in the lineup. They're not just like, zapped into like one spot. And then Albert Johansson I have in there just because I think maybe he'll get a shot. Now that's a placeholder too, because I really do think they're probably going to sign somebody, maybe trade for somebody. Again, who knows who that'll be. There'll be players that'll become available whenever these teams start getting knocked out of the playoffs. You look at the draft, that's where moves get made. So I'm excited for that. I think Yzerman's probably going to weaponize 1 or 2 of those draft picks. We'll see. Depends who he's going after. But I think Osterley's probably out of here. Hag's gone as well. Gustav Lindstrom, he's restricted, but I don't see him really fitting as like a top 6 guy. He's probably going to be depth 7th defenseman type thing. If it were me, I would be shooting Ben Sherratt out of a cannon. I think he stinks, and this contract is brutal. I mean, 4.7 for the next 3 years. I don't know if I want to do it, but it is what it is. They went and signed him. I'm not sure what he's bringing to the table. I test even sometimes. I'm like, yeah, he's tough, but it's not worth some of the deficiencies that he has. And then in that, you got Ville Husso. Listen, he had a great season to start. Got an injury, did not play well down the stretch. That's where Nedeljkovic came back up, played really good hockey. Hellberg had a couple moments here and there. Is Hellberg coming back? Is Nedeljkovic coming back? It's hard to say, because again, that's another thing where like, who's going to be available? in free agency. There's always goalies available. Maybe a guy like Jonas Corposalo. Like, are the Kings going to bring him back? Because he's starting right now and he's UFA. Like, I would go after a guy like him to complement Husso. You almost need two starting goalies now. You see a lot of these really, really good teams. Like, look at Boston with Swayman and Ullmark. Like, they're both terrific goaltenders. You can't really rock with just one. You got to have two competent. And when you only have one, you can see what happened to Husso halfway through. He just got tired and got hurt, and it just wasn't working for him at the end of the year. So, does he have the capability to be that number one guy? Sure, but like, I don't want to start him 60 games. I want to split. So they definitely have to find somebody. Um, it's something where like the future of the Red Wings is definitely bright, and I'm excited to see some of these guys. Sebastian Cossa had a great year in the ECHL. Everybody chirps, oh, he's in the East Coast. Like, yeah, he's 20 years old. Like, he's gonna take at least a few more years, right? I mean, you see goalies like Devin Levi's 21. He just came in and caught fire. Like, it doesn't mean it's gonna keep continuing next year, but it's nice to see some of these young kids. William Wallander is coming over to play. Antetokounmpo, like I said, Albert Johansson. There's like, they have a lot of these defensemen. There's guys up front. Amadeus Lombardi, like, is he going to go back to Flint? Is he going to come playing Grand Rapids? They have, and then whoever they draft, right? With they're probably going to be 9th or 10th overall. So it's a fun time to be a Wings fan. I know, you got to be patient though. That's something that, listen, like, it's still gonna take time. I know it's 4 years in, but you can't look at this like, hey, we're just gonna, if Yzerman was any other GM, yeah, they'd be on the hot seat right now. But that's where I think a lot of owners get impatient, and then they make stupid decisions, which means there's pressure on the general managers. They make stupid decisions, dumb signings, stupid trades, and then it doesn't work, right? So give them time to try to get done what they need to be done, because right now everything's pointing and like, yeah, it's going the right direction. Yzerman's not infallible. Like, he can make mistakes, and there has been a few, but that's what happens. You're trying to find somebody, right? I saw an interesting thing. Take a swig of my beer here. I saw an interesting question, and it was basically like, what non-playoff team do you think will have the best chance at winning a cup in the next 5 years? Because obviously, I'm a Wings fan, I kind of was like, oh, maybe, Detroit, maybe, depending on what happens in the lottery and things like that, obviously with every team. But then I went, wait a minute, it's not Detroit, it's Buffalo. And that's scary because they're in the same division, right? I mean, Ottawa as well. I mean, I was looking at them going, yeah, they got some guys too. But man, listen to some of these young kids they got. Alex Tuck, 26 years old. You got Casey Middlestat, 24. He was drafted like right before Rasmussen. You have Tage Thompson, who's unbelievable, 25 years old. Dylan Cousins, Peyton Krebs, Jack Quinn, JJ Paterka. You got Rasmus Dahlin, Owen Power. These guys have some. Matthias Samuelson. I mean, like I said, Devin Levi in net. They got Luukkonen in net as well. They have a lot of young guys that are already playing on their team, and that could be a scary team in a few years. Like, is Kyle Okposo going to come back? He's going to make $6 million. They're $6 million off your cap. I mean, Skinner is making $9 million for the next 4 years, but he had a pretty good year too. So man, they're going to be an interesting team. So I thought that was kind of a cool question, is like, who do you think is going to be that team? And it might be them. More regular season stuff before we get to the playoffs. Connor McDavid, like, unbelievable. Like, the 6th player to get 150 points in a season. And off the top of my head, before I look, because it's right over here, Gretzky, Lemieux, Yzerman, Bernie Nichols, Phil Esposito, and now McDavid. And I think I got all of them there. Let me see. Gretzky, Lemieux, Esposito, Yzerman, Nichols. Yeah, Lemieux did 4 times. Gretzky did it 9 times. That's incredible. Like, especially in this day and age where there's, obviously the scoring is up. But if you look at like 2016, I think it was the year where Jamie Benn won the Art Ross Trophy somehow. Like, how the hell, with 83 points, McDavid basically almost doubled that. And there was just tons of players that were over 100 points. And even there was like 5 or 6 players that scored 50. I mean, I like it because more goals, it's more fun to watch, right? but his stats were nuts. I mean, 82 played all 82 games, 64 goals. Now, here's an interesting stat about Connor McDavid. He hasn't hit 50 in his career until this year. Like, isn't that bananas? That's kind of crazy. Now, last year he scored 44. He had 79 assists for 123 points. This year he had 64 goals, 89 assists, 153 points. Somehow was only plus 36. Now, a lot of that must be power play as well. Obviously, with I think that's the COVID year, 56 games, he had 105 points. Holy shit. That's amazing, dude. This guy is a fucking machine. And any Leafs fan that is saying that McDavid and Matthews are 1A and 1B, you can go fuck yourself, because they are not even close. Matthews is a good player, but he is not Connor McDavid. Because this guy, I mean, think about a draft lottery. Like, what if Bedard became something even half of him? Yeah, I want to jump up and take him for sure. Two quick things I do want to talk about before we get some playoff stuff. Interesting little thing was the Chicago Wolves of the AHL. Really interesting that they are going without an affiliation. They kind of told the Hurricanes to like go away. I think they're with the Hurricanes. And they're going to be an independent AHL team, which I thought was going to be really interesting. I mentioned it to Bobo, and he's like, oh, really? I go, yeah, it's probably been done before. But think about it. You have your own manager running the show, and what you'd probably be doing is you're signing a lot of these like career AHL guys and forming like a super team. Like a lot of these AHL teams, with everybody getting called up and sent down, like Grand Rapids got decimated this year by call-ups, right? So, like, how are you supposed to manage a team? They've played like 8 different goalies. And I just thought that was interesting because I'm like, okay, they can run it the way that they want now. They can sign whoever they want. They don't have to worry about call-ups and send-downs, right? Now, are you getting top prospects? No. But at the same time, you don't really like control them. So I thought it was an interesting thing that the Wolves are going to go, and they're obviously an old AHL team too, and they're just going to go independent. That's kind of neat. And us being from Windsor, I wanted to say Spitfires stink. They stink. First number 1 seed in OHL history to get swept by the 8th seed. Now, I don't follow the OHL that much, like at all, but from what I can tell, the Kitchener Rangers were not actual 8th seed team, if you know what I mean. Like, they actually bought at the deadline, and hey, they took it to them, and then London smacked them out of the playoffs. So Windsor sucks, and that's kind of hilarious to me that they just got beat by an 8th seed. It's known to happen, but not in the OHL. It's not. Anyway, wanted to talk about those two things. Now I kind of jump into the playoffs a little bit here. So I don't know if I want to really go through like, hey, here's my predictions, because we're already like kind of into game 3. By the time this is posted, all the game 3s will be done. But obviously Boston would be one of the favorites, even with Bergeron out right now. And I think Krejci didn't play last night, and they still won. I mean, they got the record 65 wins, which, again, you know, it happened a couple of years ago with Tampa. They had 62 wins, and then Detroit in 96 had 62. Can you compare all 3? Maybe it's easier to compare Tampa and Boston because it was so close together. But comparing it to the Wings back in 96, it goes both ways, right? So back in 96, there was no overtime. Like, it was just ties, right? So if you go, all right, however many ties they had, and I don't know how many they had, but they would have had an opportunity to get another win, right? Whereas the Red Wings back then didn't have to deal with salary cap. These teams do, which the salary cap is meant for this not to happen, right? It's for parity so that teams don't get way too good. If there was a team I was obviously super wrong about, it was the Boston Bruins, because I thought they'd fall off. And I really want to find the audio of me saying that, because what a ding dong moron I am, because 65 fucking wins. That's unbelievable. So I think the Bruins should take care of the Panthers. The other series are interesting too. I mean, I think the Rangers obviously should handle the Devils. I'm gonna say obviously because the playoffs. That's why you play the games. I think the Rangers should beat the Devils. Who are the other series here? I know Tampa and Toronto we're gonna get to. Carolina and the Islanders. I watched a few of their games. Super boring. I think Carolina was probably gonna win, but I picked the Islanders just with Svechnikov being out. Now Teravainen is out too. We'll see if the depth can kind of prevail there. I thought maybe the Islanders would have a shot there. And on the other side, I picked the Dallas Stars over the Wild. Who knows? I think Dallas is a dark horse to kind of come out of the West. Colorado, I picked over Seattle, even though Seattle's giving them a time right now. And then what would it be? Edmonton and the Kings. I picked LA. I just think the Kings or the Oilers are in the same boat as the Maple Leafs, where it's like, get it done, man. Like, you have talent, you need to win now, and if you don't, I don't know where they go from here. I really don't. And then the last series would be the Jets and the Golden Knights. I picked the Golden Knights, but again, the Jets right now, they've won a game as well, so that's why you play the games in the playoffs. I mean, you can predict all the hell you want, but you never know how it's going to end up. Now, Tampa Bay, Toronto. I have some things to say about the Maple Leafs, okay? When the hell... Okay, look at me. When the hell did we decide that Tampa wasn't in the finals the last 3 years? When did we decide that? Because every prediction I've seen is Leafs in 6, Leafs in 7, Leafs in 6, Leafs in 6. It's like, am I missing something? Am I in bizarro land? Because of what I'm seeing, Tampa could have won 3 Stanley Cups in a row just last year, right? Returned all their core, supplemented some of their like bottom depth with prospects and a couple signings. And yeah, did they have not the greatest year? Sure, but like they're still the Lightning, man. And if you're going in thinking, hey, we're just going to beat these guys, like, you haven't won shit. So I was shocked that everyone was picking Toronto. I obviously picked Tampa. I'll pick Toronto when they give me a reason to pick them. They haven't won anything, right? So I'll pick a team that's been in the finals 3 years in a row. Thanks. That being said, the first game of the playoffs for Toronto and Tampa. Woo boy. Now, Tampa won 7-3. Okay. I didn't see that coming. Skip to the next game, game 2. Toronto won like 7-2. So it goes both ways. It flip-flops. Hedman was hurt. Chernak got hurt. We're going to talk about how. But it's every year with you Leafs fans, man. I have a few buddies that are Leafs fans. They're pretty even keel. They don't get too high, they don't get too low. But I find with Leafs fans, it's either like plan the parade or I'm going to jump off a bridge. Like there's no middle ground. And it's so annoying because every year I go through the same feelings. You know what? It wouldn't be the worst thing if they won, because then, my buddies would see what it's like to win, and, it feels good. I've experienced it. And then I see all the articles and I see all the media stroking off the Leafs, and it's Leafs. And it's enough. Like, guys, I get it. Like, you're in the playoffs, big fucking deal. But they're talking about things like, well, they changed the banner above Scotiabank Arena when they walk in, and it used to be Matthews, Marner, and just the big four, and now it's the whole team, and it's a new. It's all bullshit. Okay, guy I work with, he says it's all bullshit. He says it all the time. It's all bullshit. Like, who fucking cares about that? And then after game 1, right? Now we're not even going to talk about game 2. Game 1, okay? I have never heard of this before. Apparently, Wes McCauley, who's a referee, he's the one that does all the like 5 minutes for fighting, like that guy. All of a sudden, Leafs fans were talking about how this guy has a beef with Sheldon Keefe, the Leafs coach, and oh my God, they're like 0-8 whenever he refs a playoff game with Toronto in it, and this and that. And I'm like, before the game, I'm like, Jesus, guys, like, excuses much already? Like, what is going on? It's like a defense mechanism with you people. Like, it's not the referee's fault. There's a reffing problem in the NHL. There's a replay problem in the NHL, just like the NFL. I get it. I really do. I understand it. If you think that your team is the only one getting jobbed by the referees, shut the fuck up, okay? Because you're not. It's every fucking team in the NHL, okay? They went on to lose the game. Toronto had way more penalties than Tampa Bay. Guess what, guys? Not every game is going to be you get 5 and you get 5. I hate how refereeing has become that where, well, we got to even it up, right? No, you don't. If you're being a dumbass, you go to the box. The amount of games that I played in, just in minor hockey, I never played anywhere where we'd be playing a team that'd be slashing, hacking, hits from behind, elbows, spearing, dumb shit like that, roughing after the whistle, where they'd have 12 penalties and we'd have one, and we'd score 6 power play goals. You're not just going to give us a penalty if we're playing totally fine and by the rules, right? So I don't understand where this even up call came from. Even up calls are when you fuck up a call. That's what happens. Hey, I made a penalty. Ooh, then I saw it on the replay. That wasn't really a trip. Makeup call goes the other way like 3 minutes later, right? That's what that means. That's an even up call. Just because you slash someone really hard in the ankles doesn't mean that they're going to get a penalty next. That's not how it works, okay? And if you think that's how it works, it's not. It's just not, okay? You think if you're okay, now if you're a Leafs fan, think about this. The Toronto Maple Leafs, one of the most profitable teams in the NHL. Canada's team, right? Most popular team there, right? Why would the NHL not want you to win? Do you really think that they're stacking the deck against you? It's so funny because it's not. If there's any way, they'd probably want Toronto to win, right? It's like when I was watching the Super Bowl, the Chiefs and the Eagles. Who do you think the NFL would have preferred that that would have won? The Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes. He's their baby. He's the next one. Brady's gone. He's our next big thing, right? Tampa Bay's had their moment. They've won 2 cups. They went to the final, right? Don't you think it would be the best for the league if Toronto ended up going far for TV ratings, for the press? Of course. So why do you think the NHL would, we're going to put these referees in there that are going to fuck them over? Go and look at the regular season stats. Wes McCauley, when he's calling Leafs games, and then come back to me. Go and look at the other games that he's refereed in the playoffs. See the discrepancy in penalties. It was basically last night. That was it. Game 1. That's the only time it really mattered. Okay. The other times, guess what? Put the fucking puck in the net. Keep it out of yours. Win the damn game and stop complaining about the goddamn stripes every fucking game. Every game. Because guess what happened in game 2? Oh, Eric Furlat's going to referee. Oh, well, and then they started doing it again. I've never seen so much referee talk in my life. Okay? Because guess who's the one that called that penalty on Hull last year? Eric fucking Furlat, okay? So there's always going to be something that you can point to and go, that's why. No, you just lost 7-3 because you sucked in game 1, okay? Now, is it the reason that you won in game 2? No. Then it's not the reason you lost in game 1, okay? Do you think Tampa Bay is looking at it like, oh, fuck, we lost because the referees? No. They lost because they sucked, okay? So get the referee crap out of your head, all the excuses, okay? Another thing with the Leafs that I've never understood, and I feel like Leafs fans might be in 2 camps here, okay? And I'm probably talking to one of them. Michael Bunting might be the biggest pussy in the league. I have zero respect for someone that is such a floppy, yappy little bitch. And I don't say that like, oh, I get like physically mad when I see this guy get like, I could go like this and go, and he'd go flying off the roof, hit his head off the ice, and then have a convulsion. Dude, I didn't even touch you, right? And then Leafs fans will go, or even not even the Leafs fans, Sheldon Keefe and all these guys, oh, he's being treated unfairly by the referees. Not when you're being a prick dumbass. No, you're not. You have a reputation for being a rat. Now, guess what? Is Brad Marchand a rat? Yeah, but guess what? He deserves some of it, right? He plays with an edge. He does all this stuff. You don't play with an edge. You're just an asshole. That's all you're doing. You're going in late, face wash a guy, hide behind the referee. You've never had a fight in your life. Holy crap, man. And all you do is this, right? When you're a player that just yaps, that's where I was talking about Crosby. All he does was always flapping his gums all the time. Dude, shut up and play. Michael Bunting was in the AHL for like 7 seasons, okay? I saw an article and I think it was Frank Saravalli from Daily Faceoff or something, said that the top free agent in the NHL coming in the offseason is Michael Bunting. What? This guy is Justin Abdelkader 2.0. I'm just going to say it. If anyone signs him to a long-term deal, you will regret it. Justin Abdelkader is still on the cap-friendly page for the Red Wings because he's still bought out for like the next 4 years. That's how it goes. Because guess what? He played with Datsuk and Zetterberg. Got a bunch of points. Yeah, so would I. Michael Bunting played with Matthews and Marner. Did he take advantage of a good situation? Hell yeah. And good for him for doing it, right? Because a lot of other guys could have went up there and probably not performed. He did. But he's shown that he can't do it by himself. Okay? The interesting thing too is like now Leafs fans are saying, oh, like that he got suspended for this hit on Chernak, which talk about a dumbass move. Doesn't have the puck, blind side, shoulder, chops. And the amount of people that were defending, oh, we didn't even really. Shut up, man. It's a head contact. You can't do that, right? 3 games, good. Get him out of here. Because guess what? Chernak's probably out for longer. That comes into play, right? His reputation does come into play. Do you know how long it's going to take him to change his reputation? Years. With an S at the end. It doesn't just go away. You have to totally change the way you're doing things. And again, I'll reference Crosby. He used to do that. Obviously, way better hockey player than Michael Bunting. But Crosby used to flap his gums like all the time and just wouldn't stop. He was whining and crying, and it took him so long, right? Obviously, winning a cup, winning the next 2. Now, if he does it, it's more of like once in a while, and it's like an egregious call or something, right? Every single time he got touched back in the day, it was like, oh my God, fucking touch me. Are you kidding me? It's like, okay, Michael Bunting can't just go flying into the wall every 2 seconds and then get up like, what are you doing? It's like they're watching you, man. I guarantee, I've never refereed a day in my life, but I guarantee you if I was, I'd be talking with the other refs and go, dude, you see him make us look stupid again? Because when you're flopping all over the place, you're making a referee look stupid when they make a call. Because Bunting does draw a lot of penalties. He takes a ton as well. But when you're drawing penalties by flopping all over the place, it makes referees look stupid. You think they really like that? Of course not. So whenever there's a scrum and they go and grab him first, yeah, I get it. Get out of here, man, because I know exactly what you're going to do. So I hate Michael Bunting. He right now is the most hated player in the NHL for me by far. And I can't stand him. And the fact that there's a potential, and I can feel it in my heart, there's a potential, however small it is, that Detroit could potentially sign this guy. Gives me, I might have a coronary just thinking about it because I wouldn't be able to deal with it. Like, I don't know what I would do. That would be 85 times worse than the Ben Sherratt signing. Just gonna say it would be the worst signing in Red Wings history. I would mark it down right now. Couldn't do it. So I don't think I have anything else to talk about. I had to get that off my chest there because I I just can't stand it. And you know what? If the Leafs end up winning, it's fine, right? But you're gonna run into a buzzsaw with the Bruins in the second round. I don't know what to tell you there, but if they won, I would be like, all right, cool, but we'll never hear the end of it. I mean, there was some stuff that was about talking about like the most annoying fans and who's like the dumbest ones and who's too loud and who's got the best Twitter and all that stuff. And man, were the Leafs on the polarizing ends of both of those. It was really funny to see. But yeah, next time, hopefully we get Bobo back from Vegas. He was like, oh man, Golden Knights aren't playing when I'm there. I'm like, well, you're going to have to take out like a loan to go to one of those games if it's the playoffs, although it would be unbelievable. They have one of the best playoff intros of all time with the John Wick song and everything. But yeah, he'll be back soon. I think he's gone for the weekend or maybe longer. Who knows? But he'll be back at one point. We'll get the boys back together. And actually, another thing that you guys can check out too, if you've come this far, 5v5 hockey. Okay, we don't have our website anymore. I'll try and type it in here just so everybody has the 5v5 hockey. Let's see. I think it's here we go. 5v5hockey.com. So the number 5, the letter V, the number 5, and then hockey.com. Josh Laterno, good friend of ours. He's the one that got us back into doing this. He's the one that made our website when we had it. He has his own website. Okay, it's up and running. It's for daily fantasy, year-long fantasy. I haven't really had a chance to like go in and really take a deep dive at it. Seems really interesting because I haven't really been a fantasy hockey guy. I don't bet myself. I'll do fantasy hockey for fun. This is the only first year that I've done it. Actually, I won. Um, Getting Connor McDavid second overall. We'll do that for you. But check out his site. There's some interesting things coming down the line with our show and kind of some of the ideas of how we're going to integrate things here. Obviously, nothing's going to change for me and Bobo. We're still doing our show whenever we want and how we want. But it's somewhere where now that we don't have a site, Josh's site, 5v5 Hockey, is going to be hosting our podcast at one point. It won't be up there right now, but eventually we will get it up there. So take a peek at his website. You can sign up for things. There's some free trials and you can test it out. He has built this whole crazy analytical thing that I'm too dumb to describe. So there might be a show where we get Josh on possibly and get him to walk us through the site and give us a little bit of a tour, so to speak, and like how all this stuff works and what it all means. Because if it's something that can help, I like analyzing the game, obviously. I like advanced stats, but when he's looking at things like, team matchups and, oh, when this goalie plays this team, like here's the statistics and here's what happened last time. He has this whole algorithm printed out. It's in there. Check it out. It's pretty interesting. But yeah, maybe that's something that we do going forward. There are some things I think in the works too. So keep a lookout for that. Something to scratch my Red Wings itch every podcast. So until next time, take care. We'll talk to you soon.